in this AFC North battle between the Cleveland Browns and the Bengals, who do you expect to come out on top and why?
So this is a little bit more of a tough one for me, not necessarily because of the matchup. It's a divisional game, so obviously both teams are going to be playing their asses off. But I think it's going to be tough because both teams are coming off of some tough situations. Obviously, what we just talked about internally with the Browns, and then of course the Bengals coming off of a pretty bad loss, kind of maybe showing or shedding some light that that defense could have some spots. I mean, hey, listen, Mike the Goat White went out and balled the hell out last week, right? He carved it up, and he carved up a good amount of the game that he played against the Colts. So by no means is this kid a scrub. But I think Cincinnati's going to come out with a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to come out pretty upset. They're going to come out there pretty mad because they let up a game that could have definitely separated them from the Ravens and really put them in a good spot to be successful in the AFC North. But the Browns also have a pretty good personnel group coming together. Obviously, Nick Chubb is now healthy. They're getting healthier throughout the week, minus Baker's consistent injury with the shoulder. The defense played solid last week. I'm not going to go out there and say that they were spectacular, but they did what they needed to do to a certain extent. So I expect it to be a little bit of a gritty game. Again, obviously them being division rivals makes this a little bit more of a chippy game. And then, if Cleveland wins, they're tied with Cincinnati for second place. And obviously if Baltimore wins, they're going to be in sole possession of first. But again, a lot riding in this game. If the Bengals obviously flip and they were to go out there and win, they would be tied with Baltimore because I believe Baltimore's 6-2 right now, right?
I know they're at like 5-3. They're like either 5-2 or 6-2. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the two, right? So again, a lot riding on the game. If I had to pick, I would probably say Cincinnati just because they have the chip from last week and because of the internal turmoil that is going on within Cleveland's locker room right now. Whether Odell plays or not is going to also be a big factor because it just takes away a weapon that you don't got a scheme for.
Yeah, I when I look at this matchup, it's going to be an interesting one just because, these divisional matchups, they're always kind of tough to pick because, these teams know each other really well. But I'm going to favor Cincinnati in this one, and here's why. Like you mentioned, they had a really bad performance against the Jets last week. Granted, they did score 31 points against New York. It's just that they gave up 34 to the Jets and to a backup quarterback who looked like Tom Brady out there.
For second coming to Joe Montana, okay? Bro, Michael White is a beast.
It was insane. Like, he could not miss. Like, in that fourth quarter, he was money. And I think Cincinnati, they learned some lessons from that game. And Cincinnati is a very young team still, by and large. And I think that game in particular, it's like, damn, you got to play 60 minutes. I know the Jets aren't that good of a team, but, that's one game where it's like, yeah, we had that one. We just let it slip. And those are one of those learning experiences, some growing pains in some way or another in that regard. And I think they get back on track this week. I think Joe Burrow, he does a solid job against this Cleveland defense. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Mixon has a really solid day, not just in the run game, but also in the passing game as well. The way that he can be utilized in the receiving game, there's not too many running backs that can be as effective with running the ball and to go along with that, just as good in the receiving game as well. I think Jamar Chase, I think that connection between him and Joe Burrow, I think it gets back on track from last week. And I think the defense, I think they improved mightily than what they gave up last week to the Jets. And Cleveland, coming into this game, offensively, they've been really struggling the last 3 games. They haven't put up over 20 points as an offense in their last 3 games. And they're coming off a performance last week where they only scored 10 points as an offense. And it really just kind of go to show just, I think, how impactful that injury to Baker with that torn labrum issue is, and losing Kareem Hunt. They lost that 1-2 combo punch with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt when Kareem went out with that injury. And I do think that Dearness Johnson has come in admirably to replace Kareem Hunt, but it's just not the same. I know Nick Chubb is coming off of an injury as well, so the offense is definitely battered with injuries. And then when you tie in all the Odell drama attached to it, it just doesn't seem like Cleveland's in a position where they're going to be competitive against the Bengals to get this win. It's still a divisional game. I think it's going to be fairly close still. I think Cincinnati, they win this one. I'm going to say they win this one by about 7 to 10 points. I'm feeling like 27-17, somewhere around there. I don't have a lot of faith that Cleveland's going to be able to get over 20 points just because they haven't shown me anything of late that they could actually keep up with the teams that they go against. I mean, the last great offensive performance that they had for the season was against the Chargers. You know, they scored, I think, like 42 points, but ended up losing that game because they gave up damn near 50. So it's just, I don't have a lot of faith in the Browns, but I think the Bengals, they get back on track. I think they wipe away that memory that was that Jets game last week. And I think, you know, they move on to 6-3 after this divisional matchup.